A young virgin girl decides to work as a cleaning lady for a day to help her aunt at a luxury hotel. But when she's mistaken for a guest by a millionaire, she faces an unexpected humiliation. The millionaire, realizing his mistake and learning her true story, makes a move that deeply surprises her. If this story caught your attention, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and tell us which city you're watching from. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the campus of Boston University Medical School as Emma Mitchell hurried toward the library, her arms filled with textbooks. At 22, Emma embodied determination. Her chestnut hair was pulled back in a practical ponytail, revealing intelligent hazel eyes that rarely missed a detail. The daughter of a schoolteacher and a mechanic from a small town in Massachusetts, Emma had fought for every opportunity she'd earned. Tonight was crucial. She needed to complete her study session for the prestigious Callaway Medical Scholarship exam happening in 3 days. This scholarship represented everything she'd been working toward: a full ride through medical school, freedom from crushing student debt, and the opportunity to become the doctor she'd dreamed of being since childhood. Just as she settled at her favorite study spot, her phone vibrated. Seeing her Aunt Lillian's name on the screen made her smile. Lillian had been more like a second mother than an aunt, especially after Emma's parents divorced when she was 12. "Hey, Aunt Lil, I can't talk long. I'm at the library and—" "Emma, honey, I wouldn't call if it wasn't important." Lillian's voice sounded strained, almost tearful. "I fell on the stairs at the Bellevue Hotel. My ankle's swollen up like a balloon. The doctor says it's a bad sprain. I can't walk on it for at least a week." Emma's stomach tightened. "That's terrible. Do you need me to come over? I could bring some dinner and—" "No, sweetie, that's not why I'm calling." Lillian paused, her breathing audible through the phone. "I need to ask you something, and it kills me to do it, especially now with your big exam coming up." Emma closed her eyes, already anticipating what was coming. "My shift starts in 2 hours at the Bellevue. If I don't show up, that's it. They'll fire me. You know how Mr. Peterson is about attendance. This job is all I have since your uncle left." Emma glanced at her carefully organized study materials, the color-coded notes she'd prepared over months. The Callaway Scholarship Committee accepted only 5 students each year. Her entire future hung on this exam. "Could you possibly, just for tonight, cover my shift? It's only 8 hours, from 8 p.m. to 4 a.m. All you'd need to do is clean the executive suites on floors 15 through 17. Lillian's voice cracked. "I wouldn't ask if I had anyone else, Emma. You know that." Emma thought of her aunt, who had taken her in during those difficult high school summers when her parents were sorting out their messy divorce. Lillian, who had worked double shifts at the hotel to help Emma pay for her undergraduate textbooks. Lillian, who never asked for anything in return. "Of course I'll do it," Emma said, pushing aside her anxiety about the lost study time. "Text me the details, I'll make it work." After ending the call, Emma packed up her books and headed to her tiny apartment to change. She could study after the shift, she rationalized. It would be fine. Just one night. 2 hours later, Emma entered the service entrance of the Bellevue Hotel, one of Boston's most luxurious establishments. The gleaming marble lobby with its crystal chandeliers was a stark contrast to the utilitarian employee hallways. A harried woman named Dorothy, apparently the night supervisor, handed Emma a uniform and an electronic keycard. "Lillian explained the basics to you, right? 17 rooms total. Work efficiently but thoroughly. Don't disturb the guests. Don't touch personal items. And whatever you do, stay out of the Platinum Suite on the top floor until after midnight. Mr. Blake specifically requested late service." "Mr. Blake?" Emma asked, struggling into the slightly too large uniform. Dorothy raised an eyebrow. "You really are new. Nathan Blake. The Blake Enterprises Nathan Blake. Tech mogul, real estate developer, basically owns half of Boston." She checked her watch. "Just don't mess up his room, okay? He tips well when he's happy and complains loudly when he's not." With a service cart loaded with supplies, Emma rode the service elevator to the 15th floor. The work was straightforward but exhausting, changing linens, scrubbing bathrooms, vacuuming. By 11:30 p.m., her back ached and her fingers were raw from cleaning products, but she'd finished all but the mysterious Mr. Blake's platinum suite. At midnight, Emma took the service elevator to the top floor where the platinum suite occupied the entire east wing. She knocked softly, following protocol despite Dorothy's assurance that Mr. Blake would be out at a charity gala until at least 1 a.m. When no one answered, she used her keycard and pushed the cleaning cart inside, gasping involuntarily at the opulence before her. The suite was larger than her entire apartment building's floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows showcased the Boston skyline, twinkling like stars against the night sky. Original. Artwork adorned the walls, and the furniture looked like it belonged in a museum. Emma started in the massive bathroom, scrubbing the marble surfaces and replacing the plush towels. She worked methodically, trying not to think about the organic chemistry formulas she should be memorizing instead. She had just finished vacuuming the living area when she heard the electronic lock click. Before she could react, the door swung open, and a tall figure stood silhouetted against the hallway light. Nathan Blake was younger than Emma had expected, mid-30s at most. His dark hair was slightly disheveled, his bow tie undone around the collar of his tuxedo shirt. His piercing blue eyes narrowed as they fixed on Emma, who stood frozen beside her cleaning cart, still holding the vacuum hose. "Well, well," he said, his voice carrying a hint of amusement as he closed the door behind him. "I didn't realize the Bellevue was offering such personalized room service these days." Emma blinked, confused. "I'm just here to clean, sir. I'm filling in for my aunt tonight." Blake approached with casual confidence, the kind that came from a lifetime of privilege. "Come on, you can drop the act." He loosened his tie further. "Gerald always arranges these little surprises when I'm in town, though I must say the maid costume is a bit cliché." Emma's confusion transformed into understanding, then indignation. "I'm not. This isn't." She gestured to her uniform. "This is real. I'm actually cleaning your room." Blake laughed, a rich sound that might have been charming in any other context. "Right. And I suppose next you'll tell me you're studying to be a doctor or something equally impressive." He reached for a crystal decanter. "Drink?" "No, thank you," Emma said stiffly, her cheeks burning with humiliation. "I should finish up and go." Blake leaned against a sleek desk, studying her with amused interest. "You're really committed to this role, aren't you? All right, I'll play along." He gestured expansively around the suite. "Please, continue cleaning. Don't mind me." Emma wanted nothing more than to explain exactly who she was, a scholarship student with a 3.9 GPA who had published research as an undergraduate, but something in his dismissive gaze stopped her. Why bother? Men like Nathan Blake saw what they expected to see. "I'm actually finished," she said, keeping her voice level as she gathered her supplies. "Enjoy your evening, Mr. Blake." As she pushed her cart toward the door, Blake called after her, "Hey, wait, what's your name? For when I thank Gerald for his thoughtfulness." Emma paused at the door, conflicted. Part of her wanted to tell him to go to hell. Another part remembered her aunt's job was at stake. "Emma," she said finally, without turning around. "Emma Mitchell." "Well, Emma Mitchell," he said, his voice carrying that same amused condescension. "You're quite convincing. Perhaps next time Gerald could send someone a bit more enthusiastic." The door closed behind her with a soft click that somehow felt like the final word in an argument she hadn't realized they were having. As Emma rode the service elevator down, she tried to push away the humiliation burning in her chest. 1 night, she reminded herself. Just one night to help Aunt Lillian. Tomorrow she would return to her books and her dreams of medical school, and Nathan Blake would remain in his world of penthouses and galas, their paths never to cross again. Who knew? Wrong she was. At 4 a.m., Emma clocked out, changed back into her street clothes, and caught the first subway train of the morning. Her eyes burned with exhaustion as she reviewed her notes on the ride home, but her mind kept returning to the encounter in the Platinum Suite. It wasn't just Blake's mistake that bothered her. It was his assumption, his easy dismissal of her, as someone whose only value could be in entertaining a man like him. The memory of his condescending smile made her grip her textbook tighter. "Focus, Emma," she whispered to herself. "He doesn't matter. The scholarship matters." But as she finally crawled into bed at 5:30 a.m., setting her alarm for a painfully short 2-hour nap before her morning class, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that something significant had shifted in her carefully ordered world. She just didn't know yet how right she was. 3 days later, Emma sat in the university hall staring at the completed Callaway scholarship exam in front of her. Her hand ached from writing for 2 solid hours, and fatigue clouded her thoughts. The all-nighters she'd pulled to make up for the lost study time had taken their toll. As she handed in her exam booklet, a sense of dread settled in her stomach. She hadn't performed at her best, and she knew it. "How'd it go?" asked Mia, her closest friend in the program, as they walked out of the building together. "Honestly, not great," Emma admitted. "I blanked on that biochemistry section, and the clinical scenarios felt like they were written in a foreign language." Mia squeezed her shoulder. "Don't be so hard on yourself. Everyone found it tough." "Not everyone lost a night of studying to clean hotel rooms," Emma said, the bitterness in her voice surprising even her. She immediately regretted the words. "Sorry, I'm just tired." "Your aunt is lucky to have you," Mia said. "I doubt most people would have done the same." Emma managed a weak smile. "Let's get coffee. I need caffeine if I'm going to make it through anatomy lab this afternoon." They walked across the autumn-painted campus toward the student center, fallen leaves crunching beneath their feet. Boston, in October, was beautiful. The crisp air and colorful foliage a stark contrast to Emma's gloomy mood. As they passed a newsstand, a familiar face on the cover of Boston Business caught her eye, stopping her mid-step. Nathan Blake stared back at her from the glossy cover, his expression serious and commanding, nothing like the amused condescension she'd witnessed in the hotel suite. The headline read, "Blake launches $50 million education initiative." "What's wrong?" Mia asked, following Emma's gaze. "Oh, Nathan Blake. My dad says he's either going to save Boston or own it completely within 5 years. Emma shook her head. "It's nothing. I met him the other night, at the hotel." "You met Nathan Blake?" Mia's eyes widened. "And you're just mentioning this now? What was he like? Is he as intimidating in person?" "He mistook me for an escort," Emma said flatly. Mia's jaw dropped. What? "He thought I was some entertainment arranged by his assistant. Apparently the maid uniform was a nice touch." Emma forced a laugh, trying to make light of something that had kept her awake, even when exhaustion demanded sleep. "That's awful," Mia said. "What a jerk." "Let's just forget it," Emma replied, pulling her friend toward the coffee shop. "It doesn't matter. I'll never see him again anyway." In his downtown office, 42 floors above the city, Nathan Blake scrolled through the security footage on his tablet. After the bizarre encounter in his hotel suite, he'd been unable to shake a nagging feeling that something wasn't right. The young woman, Emma Mitchell, she'd said, had seemed genuinely offended, not at all like someone playing a role. When the 4th rewatch of the lobby footage showed the same woman entering through the employee entrance nearly an hour before, coming to his suite, Nathan set down the tablet with a frown. "Gerald," he called to his assistant, who appeared in the doorway instantly, as if conjured. "Did you arrange for anyone to visit my suite at the Bellevue the other night?" Gerald Thompson had been Blake's right hand for 7 years, managing everything from his business schedule to his rarely used dating life. His expression remained neutral as he answered, "No, sir. Was there a problem with the hotel service?" "There was a young woman cleaning my room when I returned. I assumed she was—" Nathan trailed off, feeling uncomfortably warm as the truth dawned on him. "I may have made a mistake." Gerald raised an eyebrow but said nothing. "Find out who Emma Mitchell is," Nathan said, turning to face the floor-to-ceiling windows of his office. "She said she was filling in for her aunt." "May I ask why, sir?" Nathan stared at the city below, the same view he'd had for a decade, yet somehow today it looked different. The disparities between the gleaming financial district and the struggling neighborhoods beyond suddenly more apparent. "I need to apologize," he said finally. Gerald's surprise was evident in his voice. "Apologize, sir." Yes, Gerald, that's what people do when they've been assholes, isn't it? He turned back to his assistant. Also, reschedule my meetings for Friday afternoon. I'll be visiting the Bellevue Hotel. Emma wiped sweat from her brow as she powered through another set of push-ups in the campus gym. Exercise was her stress relief, her way of processing the mounting pressure of waiting for the scholarship results. It had been 2 weeks since the exam, and the committee's decision was due any day. "Mitchell," Coach Reynolds called from across the gym. "There's someone asking for you at the front desk." Confused, Emma grabbed her towel and water bottle. She wasn't expecting anyone, and Mia knew to just text when she arrived. As she approached the reception area, she stopped abruptly, her heart skipping a beat. Nathan Blake stood by the entrance, looking uncomfortably out of place in his tailored suit among the gym-goers in their workout clothes. When he spotted her, something like relief flickered across his face. "Ms. Mitchell," he said, stepping forward, "I hope I'm not interrupting." Emma crossed her arms over her sweat-dampened t-shirt, acutely aware of her appearance. "Mr. Blake, how did you find me?" "That's a fair question." He glanced around, lowering his voice. "Could we speak somewhere more private?" Every instinct told Emma to decline, to walk away and return to the comforting predictability of her workout routine. But curiosity won out. "5 minutes," she said, leading him to a quiet corner near the water fountains. "What do you want?" "To apologize," Blake said, the words coming out in a rush. "I reviewed the security footage from that night. You were telling the truth. You were there to clean, filling in for your aunt. My assumption was inexcusable." Emma hadn't expected this. She'd imagined him as the type who never admitted mistakes, who moved through life believing his wealth entitled him to do as he pleased. His apparent sincerity caught her off guard. "I spoke with your aunt as well," he continued. "Lillian Mitchell. She's recovering well, by the way." "You spoke to Aunt Lil?" Emma's surprise turned to concern. "Why?" "To confirm the situation and to ensure she didn't face any consequences for her absence. I also wanted to learn more about you." He met her gaze directly. "She's very proud of you. Boston University Medical School, the Callaway Scholarship. Competition." Emma shifted uncomfortably. "Look, I appreciate the apology, but it's unnecessary. We're from different worlds, Mr. Blake. Let's just forget it happened." "Different worlds," he repeated thoughtfully. "That's part of the problem, isn't it? I made assumptions based on what I saw, a young woman in a maid's uniform, without considering who you might actually be." His insight surprised her, but Emma maintained her guard. Men like Blake didn't change their world views overnight. His newfound self-awareness was probably just guilt-seeking absolution. "Apology accepted," she said firmly. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to get back to my workout." "One more thing," he said quickly as she turned to leave. "I'd like to make it up to you. Dinner, perhaps, as a proper apology." Emma laughed, the sound sharp and disbelieving. "Dinner? With you? I don't think so." "Why not?" he challenged, his confident demeanor returning. "Because I don't need your charity or your guilt. Because we have nothing in common. Because I have exactly zero interest in being some rich guy's good deed." For the day, Blake didn't flinch at her bluntness. Instead, something like respect flickered in his eyes. "Fair enough. How about this? I'm speaking at your university next week about my new education initiative. If you attend, we could talk afterward. Public place, no pressure, just conversation." "Why are you pushing this?" Emma asked, genuinely puzzled. Blake considered the question, his expression thoughtful. "Because I was wrong about you, and I'm curious to know what else I might be wrong about." He handed her a business card. "Think about it. My private number's on the back." As he walked away, Emma stared at the card in her hand, embossed with the Blake Enterprises logo and the word CEO beneath his name. She should throw it away, she thought. Nothing good could come from any further interaction with Nathan Blake. Instead, she tucked it into her gym bag. The lecture hall was packed. When Emma slipped into a seat at the back, 15 minutes before Nathan Blake was scheduled to speak. She'd told herself she was only attending because the topic, expanding educational opportunities for underprivileged communities, aligned with her own interests. It had nothing to do with curiosity about the man himself. When Blake took the stage, Emma was struck by his transformation. Gone was the arrogant hotel guest and even the awkwardly apologetic man from the gym. This Nathan Blake commanded attention, speaking with passion about educational inequality and the transformative power of opportunity. "We live in a society that claims to value merit," he said, his voice carrying clearly through the hall. "But, in reality, we've built systems that recognize only certain types of merit, those displayed by people who already have advantages. True merit exists everywhere, in every neighborhood, every socio-economic class. Our failure is in not seeing it, not nurturing it, not making space for it to flourish." Emma felt a jolt of recognition. It was as if he was speaking directly to her experience, to the constant struggle to be seen as worthy in spaces designed for people with more privilege. After the presentation ended to enthusiastic applause, Emma hesitated. The rational choice was to leave, to maintain the boundary between their worlds. Instead, she found herself moving against the departing crowd, toward the small group gathered around Blake at the front of the hall. When he noticed her, he politely excused himself from a conversation with the dean and walked over to meet her. "You came," he said, genuine pleasure in his voice. "Your talk was surprisingly good," Emma admitted. "Though I'm curious, have you always cared about educational inequality, or is this a recent development?" A smile tugged at his lips. "Direct, aren't you? The truth is both. I established the foundation 5 years ago, but my perspective has evolved recently." "Since mistaking a medical student for an escort?" she asked dryly. "Since being confronted with my own prejudices," he countered. "That offer for dinner still stands, by the way. I know a place nearby with excellent pasta and absolutely no pretension." Emma should have said no. She had studying to do, applications to complete, a life plan that didn't include impromptu dinners with billionaires, but something in his expression, an openness that hadn't been there before, made her hesitate. "1 hour," she said finally, "and I'm paying for myself." Blake's smile widened. "I wouldn't dare suggest otherwise." The restaurant was indeed unpretentious, a family-owned Italian place with checkered tablecloths and candles stuck in wax-covered wine bottles. Emma was surprised Blake even knew it existed. "I grew up 3 blocks from here," he explained, noticing her confusion as they were seated in a quiet corner. "Back when this neighborhood was more working class. My father was a mailman, my mother a nurse." Another assumption shattered. Emma had pictured him born into wealth, navigating life with the ease of inherited privilege. "How did you go from that to all this?" she asked, gesturing vaguely to encompass his evident success. "Luck, timing, and borderline obsessive determination," he said, "plus an unhealthy willingness to sacrifice personal relationships for professional advancement." He paused, studying her face. "But I'm more interested in your story. Your aunt says you've wanted to be a doctor since you were 8. 9. "Actually," Emma corrected, then found herself opening up despite her reservations. She told him about growing up watching her mother struggle with medical bills after her father left, about volunteering at the local clinic in high school, about her dream of eventually opening a practice in an underserved community. "The Callaway Scholarship is my best shot," she explained. "Without it, I'm looking at crushing debt or having to postpone medical school to work for a few years." "When will you know the results?" Blake asked. "Any day now," Emma said, trying to keep the anxiety from her voice. "I'm not confident, though. The night I covered for Aunt Lil really set back my studying." Blake's expression clouded. "I'm sorry to hear that." "It's not your fault," Emma said quickly. "It was my choice. Aunt Lil has always been there for me. I couldn't let her down." "Family loyalty," Blake nodded. "Something I've never been particularly good at." As dinner progressed, Emma found herself surprisingly comfortable in his presence. The arrogance she'd first encountered seemed tempered by a genuine curiosity about her perspective. He asked thoughtful questions about her experiences navigating higher education, coming from a working-class background, listening intently to her answers. By the time they finished their tiramisu, Emma had to admit that Nathan Blake was more complex than she'd initially judged him to be. Not a hero, certainly, but perhaps not the villain of her narrative either. "Thank you for dinner," she said as they stood outside the restaurant afterward. "It was. Not what I expected." "High praise indeed," he replied with a smile. "Would it be too much to ask if we could do this again sometime?" Emma hesitated. There was an undeniable attraction building between them, but their worlds remained fundamentally different. Any connection seemed doomed to complexity and eventual heartbreak. "I should focus on school right now," she said finally, "especially with the scholarship decision coming." Blake accepted her answer with grace. "I understand, but if you change your mind—" He stepped back, hands in his pockets. "Good night, Emma Mitchell, and good luck with the scholarship. They'd be fools not to choose you." As she watched him walk away, Emma felt a curious mixture of relief and disappointment. Their brief connection had been illuminating, challenging her preconceptions, just as she had challenged his. But some boundaries, she reminded herself, existed for good reasons. What she didn't know was that their paths were about to intersect again in ways neither of them could anticipate. The envelope from the Callaway Scholarship Committee sat unopened on Emma's kitchen table. It had arrived that morning, thin and unremarkable, bearing the weight of her future in its crisp white folds. She'd been staring at it for nearly an hour, unable to gather the courage to open it. Everyone knew that rejections came in thin envelopes. Acceptances required more paper, congratulatory letters, information. Packets, ceremonial details. Her phone buzzed with a text from Mia. "Did you get it? Open it already." With trembling fingers, Emma finally tore the envelope open. The letter inside was brief and to the point. "Dear Miss Mitchell, thank you for your application to the Callaway Medical Scholarship. After careful review, we regret to inform you that you have not been selected as a recipient for this year's award." Emma set the letter down, a strange numbness spreading through her chest. She'd prepared herself for this possibility, had rehearsed how she would react, what alternatives she would pursue. Yet now that the moment had arrived, all her careful planning dissolved into a hollow ache. She picked up her phone to call her aunt, then set it down again. Lillian would be devastated, would blame herself for the night Emma had missed studying. That wasn't a conversation she was ready to have. Instead, she grabbed her running shoes. Physical exertion had always been her escape, her way of processing. Emotions too complex to face head-on. 20 minutes later, she was pounding along the Charles River path, her breath forming small clouds in the crisp November air. She ran until her lungs burned and her legs threatened to buckle, focusing on the rhythmic impact of her feet against the pavement rather than the crushing weight of disappointment. 4 miles in, she slowed to a walk, her mind finally quiet enough to think rationally. This wasn't the end. She could apply for other scholarships, take out loans, work part-time during school. The path would be harder, but it wasn't closed entirely. As she turned to head back, her phone rang. "Aunt Lillian." Emma took a deep breath and answered. "Hey, Aunt Lil." "Oh, honey." Lillian's voice was thick with emotion. "I just got home and saw your text. I'm so sorry about the scholarship." "It's okay," Emma said automatically. "I'm disappointed, but I'll figure something out. This is my fault if you hadn't covered my shift that night." "Stop," Emma interrupted firmly. "This was never a sure thing. The committee chose who they thought was best. End of story." There was a pause before Lillian spoke again, her tone hesitant. "There's something else you should know, Emma. Nathan Blake came by the hotel again today." Emma's steps faltered. "What? Why?" "He asked about you. Wanted to know if I'd heard about the scholarship results." A cold feeling spread through Emma's chest, different from the earlier numbness. "What did you tell him?" "That we were still waiting to hear. This was before I got your message." Lillian paused. "He seemed genuinely concerned, Emma. Said he wanted to help if he could." "I don't need his help," Emma said stiffly, "and I don't understand why he's suddenly so interested in my life." "Maybe he likes you," Lillian suggested gently. "Would that be so terrible? He was very charming." "He's from a different world. Aunt Lil, men like that don't seriously get involved with women like me. We're novelties to them, temporary distractions." "That's a bit cynical, don't you think? People can surprise you." Emma sighed. "Maybe, But right now I need to focus on figuring out my next steps, not wondering about Nathan Blake's motivations. After ending the call, Emma walked slowly back to her apartment, her mind churning with possibilities and contingency plans. By the time she reached her building, she'd made a decision. She would meet with the financial aid office tomorrow, explore all available options, and then take a weekend waitressing job to supplement whatever loans she could secure. The sight of a sleek black car parked in front of her building stopped her short. As she approached cautiously, the rear door opened and Nathan Blake stepped out, his expression somewhere between determined and uncertain. "Before you say anything," he began, holding up a hand, "I'm not stalking you. I went to the hotel to see if your aunt had heard any news. She mentioned you might be running along the river, so I thought I'd wait here instead of chasing you down like a complete creep." Despite everything, Emma found herself fighting a smile at his awkward explanation. How considerate. "I heard about the scholarship," he said, his voice softening. "I'm sorry, Emma." "News travels fast," she said, unable to keep the bitterness from her voice. "I only found out a couple of hours ago myself." "May I buy you a coffee, or tea, or something stronger?" He gestured toward the car. "My driver can take us anywhere." Emma hesitated, acutely aware of her sweaty running clothes and tear-stained face. "I'm not exactly presentable at the moment." "You look perfect," Blake said simply, then seemed to catch himself. "I mean, you look fine. Real. Human." The sincerity in his voice weakened her resolve. "There's a coffee shop around the corner. I can meet you there in 30 minutes after I shower." "I'll be waiting," he promised. The neighborhood coffee shop was a far cry from the upscale establishments Nathan Blake likely frequented, but he seemed perfectly comfortable seated in a worn armchair by the window, a steaming mug in front of him. When Emma entered, he stood, a genuine smile lighting his face. "I ordered you a latte," he said, as she sat across from him. "Your aunt mentioned it's your usual." "Thank you," Emma said, wrapping her cold hands around the warm mug. "Though I have to say, all this research into my preferences is starting to feel a little invasive." Blake had the grace to look abashed. "Fair point. I tend to be thorough when I'm interested in something or someone." He met her gaze directly. "I want to help, Emma." "With what, exactly?" she asked, wariness creeping into her voice. "Your medical school education. I have connections at the university. I could—" "No." The word came out more forcefully than she'd intended, drawing glances from nearby tables. More quietly, she continued, "I appreciate the thought, but I don't want or need your charity." Blake leaned forward, his blue eyes intense. "It's not charity. It's an investment." "In what?" "In potential, in talent, in someone who deserves a chance to make a difference." And Emma shook her head. "You barely know me." "I know enough," he countered. "I know you sacrificed your own interests to help your aunt. I know you're determined to become a doctor, despite financial obstacles. I know you call out arrogant, presumptuous behavior, even when it would be easier to stay silent." A small smile played at his lips. "Trust me, that last one made quite an impression." Emma sipped her latte, buying time to organize her thoughts. His offer was tempting, a solution to the very problem that had been consuming her all day. Yet something about it felt wrong, undermining the independence she'd fought so hard to maintain. "Why is this so important to you?" she asked finally. Blake was quiet for a moment, seemingly weighing how much to share. "My foundation focuses on educational opportunities because I nearly lost mine. My sophomore year at MIT, my father had a stroke. Medical bills piled up, and I was ready to drop out to help support my family." He traced the rim of his mug absently. "A professor saw my potential and arranged a special scholarship. That act of faith in me changed the trajectory of my life." "So this is about paying it forward?" Emma asked. "Partly, but there's more to it." He met her gaze again. "Meeting you, misjudging you, made me realize how comfortable I've become. In my bubble. How easy it is to stop seeing people as complex individuals when you've insulated yourself with wealth and status." His honesty was disarming. Emma could feel her resistance weakening, yet pride still held her back. I need to do this on my own terms. Then name them, Blake challenged. What would make this acceptable to you? Emma considered the question seriously. It can't be a handout. If you really want to help, it would have to be structured as a proper scholarship through official channels with clear criteria that I actually meet. And I'd want to contribute somehow. Community service, work with your foundation, something that makes it an exchange rather than charity. Blake nodded, looking impressed. Those are reasonable terms. I think we can work with that. Give me a week to set something up. I haven't agreed to anything yet, Emma reminded him. Of course not, he said, a hint of his earlier confidence returning. But when I present you with an opportunity that meets all your requirements, I hope you'll consider it. Emma couldn't help smiling at his persistence. You're very sure of yourself, aren't you? In business, yes. With you? He shook his head, his expression softening. Not at all. You're the least predictable person I've met in years. The admission surprised her. There was a vulnerability in his voice that seemed genuine, making him suddenly more human than the powerful CEO she'd first encountered. 1 week, she said finally. I'll hear you out, but I'm exploring all my options in the meantime. I wouldn't expect anything less, he replied. News of Emma's rejection from the Callaway Scholarship spread quickly through her program. Most of her classmates offered genuine sympathy, but a few seemed almost satisfied, as if her failure confirmed their suspicions that a working-class student from a state school undergraduate program didn't truly belong among them. Don't let them get to you, Mia advised as they left the anatomy lab together, passing a group of students who had abruptly stopped talking when Emma approached. They're just intimidated because you outscored most of them on the midterms despite working part-time. It's not bothering me, Emma lied, adjusting her backpack. I've got more important things to worry about. Like your mysterious coffee dates with Nathan Blake, Mia teased. The richest bachelor in Boston suddenly appears on campus to see you, and you thought no one would notice. Emma groaned. We've had coffee twice. It's not a big deal. Emma Mitchell, you are the worst liar. Your face goes all soft when you mention him. Mia linked arms with her as they walked. Just be careful, okay? Men like that. They live in a different reality. Trust me, I'm aware of the differences between us, Emma said dryly. It's just coffee, and possibly a foundation scholarship if he can arrange something that meets my criteria. Mia stopped walking, turning to face Emma with wide eyes. He's setting up a scholarship for you? That's intense. Not for me specifically, Emma clarified quickly. For students who meet certain criteria, which I happen to fit. Right, Mia said skeptically, because billionaires create scholarship funds for strangers they've had coffee with all the time. Before Emma could respond, her phone buzzed with a text from Blake. Meeting arranged with Dean Carter tomorrow at 2 p.m. Can you make it? Emma stared at the message, a mixture of hope and apprehension rising in her chest. It had been just 3 days since their coffee shop conversation, far sooner than the week he'd promised. Either Blake worked remarkably fast, or he'd had something in mind all along. I have to go, she told Mia, already texting back a confirmation. I need to prepare for a meeting tomorrow. Dean Carter's office reflected the prestige of Boston University Medical School, oak-paneled walls adorned with framed achievements, tall windows overlooking the historic campus. Emma sat stiffly in a leather chair, uncomfortably aware of her second-hand blazer and scuffed shoes in such elegant surroundings. Nathan Blake, by contrast, looked perfectly at ease across from her, dressed in a casual sweater that probably cost more than Emma's monthly rent. Dean Carter, a distinguished woman in her 60s with silver hair and penetrating eyes, completed the triangle. Miss Mitchell, the dean began, Mr. Blake has approached us with an interesting proposal regarding our scholarship program. He believes, and I must say, your academic record supports this, that you represent exactly the kind of student we should be supporting more actively. Emma's cheeks warmed. That's very kind, but it's not kindness, it's strategy, Blake interrupted smoothly. Dean Carter and I have been discussing ways to diversify the medical profession for some time. Your situation highlighted a gap in their current scholarship model. The dean nodded. The Callaway Scholarship, while prestigious, tends to favor students from more privileged backgrounds who've had access to extensive test preparation and research opportunities. Mr. Blake has proposed an additional scholarship focusing on candidates who have demonstrated extraordinary commitment despite socioeconomic challenges. Emma glanced between them, suspicion mingling with hope. And this just happened to come up right after I was rejected from the Callaway? Blake met her gaze directly. Your experience was the catalyst, yes, but this is larger than just you, Emma. The Mitchell Blake Service Scholarship will support 5 students each year who demonstrate academic excellence and a commitment to serving underrepresented communities. Mitchell Blake? Emma repeated, startled. Named for 2 individuals from working-class backgrounds who pursued higher education despite obstacles, Blake explained. My mother's maiden name was Mitchell, a coincidence that seemed appropriate. The dean continued. The scholarship would cover full tuition with additional stipends for recipients who commit to working in underserved communities after graduation. Something I understand aligns with your career goals, Miss Mitchell. In exchange, Blake added, recipients would participate in community outreach programs through the Blake Foundation, helping to create pathways for the next generation of diverse medical professionals. Emma's mind raced. The proposal met all her criteria, a legitimate scholarship through proper channels based on merit and aligned with service components. Yet she couldn't shake the feeling that this had been orchestrated specifically for her. This is very convenient, she said carefully. Opportunity often is, Dean Carter replied with a slight smile. The question is whether you're prepared to accept it. The first cohort would begin next semester, and based on your record, you would be an ideal candidate. I would still need to apply. To be evaluated alongside other candidates, Emma pressed. Absolutely, the dean confirmed. Mr. Blake has been quite insistent that this be a merit-based program with clear, transparent selection criteria. Emma turned to Blake, studying his expression. And if I don't qualify? Then you don't get it, he said simply. This isn't a backdoor, Emma. It's a new entrance that should have existed all along. His sincerity was convincing, but something still bothered her. Why go to all this trouble? Be honest with me. Blake hesitated, glancing at the dean, who tactfully stood and moved toward the door. I'll give you 2 a moment. Miss Mitchell, when you're ready, my assistant has the application materials prepared for you. When the door closed behind her, Blake leaned forward, his composure slipping slightly. The truth? Meeting you made me question things I've taken for granted. You were right when you said we come from different worlds, but you were wrong to think those worlds can't or shouldn't intersect. This feels overwhelming, Emma admitted. It's meant to be empowering, he countered. You set the terms, remember? A legitimate opportunity that recognizes your merit and incorporates service, everything you asked for. And what do you get out of it? She asked quietly. Blake's eyes held hers. The satisfaction of addressing a systemic problem. 5 deserving students getting medical degrees each year and, he paused, the chance to keep seeing you without your pride getting in the way. The blunt admission surprised her into laughter. At least you're honest. I'm trying to be, he said, his voice serious again. I know this isn't conventional. Nothing about our friendship has been, but I've never been more certain that something is right. Emma took a deep breath, weighing her options. The scholarship was exactly what she needed, what she deserved based on her academic record and commitment. That it came through Blake's intervention was uncomfortable, but not disqualifying. I'll apply, she said finally, but I want to be clear. If this is some elaborate attempt to impress me or make me feel indebted to you, it won't work. Noted, Blake said, a smile playing at his lips. Though I hope my company itself might eventually be impressive enough on its own merits. That remains to be seen, Emma replied, but she couldn't quite suppress an answering smile. 2 weeks later, Emma received official notification that she had been selected as one of the inaugural recipients of the Mitchell Blake Service Scholarship. The package included details of her tuition coverage, stipend, and service requirements, 20 hours monthly working with the Blake Foundation's education initiatives in underserved Boston neighborhoods. Her first instinct was to call Aunt Lillian, whose tearful congratulations and pride were exactly the validation Emma needed. Her second was to text Mia, who responded with a string of celebration emojis and demands for dinner to celebrate. Her third instinct, which surprised her, was to share the news with Nathan. Despite her initial reservations, they had fallen into a comfortable pattern of coffee meetings and occasional dinners over the past 2 weeks. Their conversations ranged from heated debates about healthcare policy to personal stories from their childhoods, revealing unexpected commonalities beneath their obvious differences. "Congratulations, Scholar Mitchell," he said when she called, genuine pleasure in his voice, though I'm not surprised in the slightest. "The committee even mentioned my essay specifically," Emma told him, unable to contain her excitement. "They said my perspective on community-based preventative care was refreshingly practical and innovative." "I told you this was merit-based," Blake reminded her. "Your ideas and hard work earned this, not my involvement." Emma appreciated his effort to reinforce her achievement as her own, even as part of her recognized that, without his intervention, the opportunity wouldn't have existed at all. The contradiction was uncomfortable, but no longer felt insurmountable. "I suppose this means I'll be seeing more of you," she said, "given the foundation work component." "Would that be such a terrible thing?" he asked, his tone light but with an undercurrent of genuine question. Emma found herself smiling into the phone. "No," she admitted, "not terrible at all." "In that case, would you join me for dinner tomorrow to celebrate? Somewhere nice this time. And before you object, this isn't charity. It's a celebration between friends." The hesitation before friends wasn't lost on Emma. Their relationship had been evolving beyond simple friendship, though neither had explicitly acknowledged it. The attraction between them was undeniable, but so were the complications. "Friends," she repeated, testing the word. "Is that what we are, Nathan?" He was quiet for a moment. "I'd like to think we're becoming something more," he said finally. "If you're open to that possibility." The honesty in his voice sent a warm current through her. "Dinner sounds wonderful," she said. "But I'm still not letting you pay." His laugh was warm and genuine. "I wouldn't dare suggest otherwise." As Emma ended the call, she felt lighter than she had in months. The scholarship had removed the immediate financial obstacle to her dreams, but something else had shifted too. Her perspective on what was possible, on the connections that could exist across seemingly unbridgeable divides. What she didn't yet realize was that the greatest challenges to her relationship with Nathan Blake were still to come. The different worlds they inhabited would collide in ways neither of them anticipated, testing both their feelings and their principles in the weeks ahead. Spring semester at Boston University Medical School brought new challenges for Emma. The Mitchell-Blake Scholarship had solved her financial concerns, but it had created unexpected social complications. Whispers followed her through the hallways, suggestions that she had earned her place through connections rather than merit, that her relationship with Nathan Blake was the real reason for her sudden reversal of fortune. "Ignore them," Mia advised as they walked to class together, passing a group of students whose conversation abruptly halted at Emma's approach. "They're just jealous because you're dating the most eligible bachelor in Boston." "We're not dating," Emma insisted, though the denial felt increasingly hollow. Over the past 3 months, she and Nathan had fallen into a rhythm of dinners, museum visits, and long walks along the Charles River. They carefully avoided labeling whatever was growing between them, but Emma couldn't deny the flutter in her stomach whenever his name appeared on her phone. "Great," Mia said, rolling her eyes. "You just happen to spend every free evening with him, and he just happens to call you every night, and you just happen to light up like the 4th of July whenever he's mentioned." Emma nudged her friend playfully. "It's complicated." "It always is when billionaires are involved," Mia replied sagely. The truth was more nuanced than Emma could easily explain. Nathan had become an important part of her life, someone who challenged her intellectually, supported her ambitions, and seemed genuinely interested in her perspective. Yet she remained acutely aware of the power imbalance between them, the vastly different worlds they inhabited. Her volunteer work with the Blake Foundation had only heightened this awareness. Twice weekly, she helped run educational programs in Dorchester, where children from low-income families received academic support and exposure to potential careers in healthcare. The gratitude in their parents' eyes was a poignant reminder of the opportunities she'd been given and how easily they could have been denied. "Ms. Emma, are you going to be a doctor soon?" asked Jamal, an 8-year-old with bright eyes and endless questions, as she helped him with his science homework. "Not for a few more years," she answered with a smile. "Medical school takes a long time." "My mom says you're going to be the best doctor ever," he informed her solemnly. "She says it's good when people like us get to be doctors." People like us. The phrase echoed in Emma's mind as she rode the subway home that evening. To Jamal and his mother, she represented possibility, proof that someone from their community could access elite institutions and professional success. How would they feel if they knew about her connection to Nathan? Would they see it as a compromise, an acceptance of help from the very power structures that created inequity in the first place? These thoughts were still troubling her when she arrived at the upscale restaurant where she was meeting Nathan for dinner. The maitre d' recognized her immediately, a testament to how regular these dinners had become, and led her to a private corner table where Nathan was already waiting. He stood as she approached, his face lighting up in a way that still surprised her. For all his wealth and power, Nathan Blake looked at her as if she were the most valuable thing in the room. "You look beautiful," he said, kissing her cheek before they sat down. "But troubled. Tough day?" Emma appreciated his perceptiveness. "Just thinking about the foundation kids. One of them said something that stuck with me, about the importance of people like us becoming doctors." Nathan nodded thoughtfully. "And you're wondering if your association with me compromises that somehow? Am I that transparent?" she asked, reaching for her water glass. "Only to me," he replied, his eyes warm. "I've become something of an expert in Emma Mitchell expressions over the past few months." The casual intimacy of his statement sent a pleasant shiver through her. "It's just complicated. The worlds we inhabit, the perceptions people have." "Speaking of perceptions," Nathan said, his tone shifting slightly, "there's something I should mention. The Boston Business Journal is running a profile on me next week, focused on the Foundation's educational initiatives. They've requested an interview with one of the scholarship recipients." Emma tensed. "And you suggested me?" "I suggested the committee provide them with contacts for all 5 recipients," he corrected. "The reporter specifically asked about you after learning of your involvement with the Dorchester program." "Because they've picked up on rumors about us," Emma concluded. Nathan didn't deny it. "It's a possibility. I wanted you to be prepared, in case they reach out." "What should I say if they do?" she asked, picking at her napkin. "The truth could undermine the legitimacy of the scholarship in people's eyes." "The truth is that you're an exceptional student who earned your place," Nathan said firmly. "Our personal connection developed separately from that." The slight hesitation before personal connection caught Emma's attention. "Is that what this is? A personal connection?" Nathan set down his wine glass, his expression suddenly serious. "You know it's more than that, Emma." "Do I?" she challenged. "We've been carefully avoiding definitions for months now. Because I didn't want to pressure you," he said quietly. "I know this hasn't been easy, the gossip, the scrutiny, the constant navigation between different worlds. And yet here we are," Emma said, gesturing to the elegant restaurant around them. "In your world, always in your world." A flash of hurt crossed Nathan's face. "That's not fair. I've made every effort to understand your reality, to respect your independence." "I know," she acknowledged, immediately regretting her words. "I'm sorry, I'm just on edge about this article, about what it might imply." Nathan reached across the table, taking her hand. "Then let's decide what we want it to mean, what this us means." The directness of his gaze made Emma's heart race. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that I've fallen in love with you, Emma Mitchell," he said simply. "I've been in love with you since you stood in my hotel suite in that ridiculous uniform and refused to be intimidated by me. I love your brilliance, your determination, your unflinching commitment to what you believe is right. And I'm tired of pretending this is just friendship or some undefined connection." Emma sat stunned, the noise of the restaurant fading around them. She had suspected, hoped even, that Nathan's feelings mirrored her own growing attachment, but hearing the words spoken aloud made them startlingly real. "Nathan, You don't have to say anything right now," he interrupted gently. "I know, there are complications, considerations beyond just how we feel about each other, but I wanted you to know where I stand, especially before this article potentially throws us into the spotlight." Emma squeezed his hand, gathering her courage. "I love you too." The words felt both terrifying and liberating, an admission she had been holding back not just from him, but from herself. Loving Nathan Blake meant accepting a level of complexity she had never anticipated in her carefully planned life. His smile was radiant, transforming his features from handsome to breathtaking. "Well," he said, his voice slightly unsteady, "that makes the next part a bit easier." "What next part?" Emma asked cautiously. "The part where I invite you to be my date for the Foundation's annual gala next weekend. It's a significant event. Donors, board members, university officials. Being there together would be a pretty public statement." The implication was clear. This would be their official debut as a couple. No more careful ambiguity, no more private dinners in corner tables. The thought was simultaneously exhilarating and terrifying. "Would my attendance be as a scholarship recipient or as your girlfriend?" Emma asked, the new term feeling strange on her tongue. "Both," Nathan answered honestly. "Those two aspects of our relationship have always existed in parallel. I don't think we can or should try to separate them anymore." Emma took a deep breath, considering all the ramifications. "I'll need a dress." Nathan's laugh was spontaneous and joyful. "Of all the possible responses, that wasn't the one I was expecting." "Well, it's practical," she defended with a smile. "I can't very well show up to a black tie gala in my lab coat." "I'd find you beautiful regardless," he assured her. "But yes, a dress would be traditional." As their dinner continued, their conversation drifted to lighter topics, but Emma remained aware of the significant shift that had occurred. They had finally acknowledged the depth of their feelings, but in doing so, had committed to navigating the complications those feelings created. The week leading up to the gala passed in a blur for Emma. Between her regular classes, clinical rotations, foundation, volunteer work, and an unexpected interview request from the Boston Business Journal, she barely had time to breathe, let alone prepare emotionally for her public debut as Nathan Blake's girlfriend. The reporter, a sharp-eyed woman named Vanessa, Chen, met Emma at a campus coffee shop. Her questions initially focused on the scholarship's impact. "The financial support has been transformative," Emma explained, choosing her words carefully. "Medical school debt can be crippling, especially for students from working-class backgrounds." "And the service component?" Chen prompted. 20 hours monthly with the Blake Foundation seems substantial for a medical student's schedule." "It's meaningful work," Emma said sincerely. "The program connects underserved communities with educational resources they might otherwise never access. That's worth the time investment." Chen nodded, making notes before shifting her approach. "Sources suggest your relationship with Nathan Blake predates the scholarship announcement. Would you care to comment on that?" Though prepared for the question, Emma still felt her cheeks warm. "Mr. Blake and I met through coincidental circumstances several months ago. Our personal relationship developed separately from his foundation's decision to establish the scholarship program." "Yet you were among the first recipients," Chen observed. "Some might see a connection." "The selection process was conducted by a committee of faculty and foundation board members," Emma replied evenly. "Mr. Blake deliberately recused himself from evaluations of all candidates." "But the scholarship was his initiative," Chen pressed. "The need for increased diversity and accessibility in medical education has been evident for decades," Emma countered. "Mr. Blake happened to be in a position to address that need, and I happened to be a student who fit the criteria. The timing may appear convenient to outsiders, but I assure you, every recipient earned their place based on academic merit and commitment to service." Chen studied her for a moment, then asked, "And what would you say to those who might suggest your relationship with Mr. Blake presents a conflict of interest?" Emma met her gaze directly. I'd say that reducing my academic achievements to a perceived personal connection does a disservice not only to me but to every student who has worked their way into elite institutions without family wealth or connections. The narrative that working-class students can only succeed through extraordinary luck or patronage is exactly what the Mitchell-Blake Scholarship aims to challenge. Something in Chen's expression shifted, a flicker of respect, perhaps. That's a compelling perspective, Ms. Mitchell. One final question. Will you be attending the Foundation Gala this weekend? Yes, Emma answered, deciding honesty was the best approach, both as a scholarship recipient and as Mr. Blake's guest. Chen closed her notebook with a small smile. I look forward to seeing what you wear. The evening of the gala arrived with an unexpected snowfall, blanketing Boston in pristine white that gleamed under the city lights. Emma stood before the mirror in her apartment, hardly recognizing herself in the emerald green gown she and Mia had found after hours of shopping. The dress was simple but elegant, its color vivid against her skin. You look like a movie star, Aunt Lillian declared, brushing away a tear as she helped adjust the necklace, a delicate silver pendant that had belonged to Emma's grandmother. I feel like an imposter, Emma admitted. All these months of insisting I don't belong in Nathan's world, and here I am dressing up to enter it willingly. Loving someone doesn't mean surrendering your identity, Lillian said wisely. It means creating a new space that belongs to both of you. A knock at the door announced Nathan's arrival. When Emma opened it, the naked admiration in his eyes made her momentary doubts recede. You are breathtaking, he said simply, offering her a small velvet box. A token for tonight. Inside lay a pair of emerald earrings, their color a perfect match for her dress. Nathan, these are too much. They were my mother's, he interrupted gently. She wore them to my father's retirement party, the first formal event they attended after years of struggling to make ends meet. She would have loved you, Emma. Your determination reminds me of her. The personal connection behind the gift made it impossible to refuse. As Nathan helped her put them on, his fingers brushing against her neck, Emma felt a sense of rightness despite her lingering concerns. The Blake Foundation Gala was held at the Boston Public Library, its historic halls transformed for the evening into an enchanted winter wonderland. As Nathan escorted Emma through the entrance, she felt the weight of curious stares from Boston's elite, wealthy donors, university officials and society figures who had known Nathan for years. Everyone's watching us, she whispered. Let them, he replied, his hand warm and steady against her back. I'm certainly not ashamed to be seen with the most brilliant woman in the room. His confidence bolstered her own, and as the evening progressed, Emma found herself engaging comfortably with Foundation board members, sharing insights from her work in Dorchester. Many expressed genuine interest in her perspective, though she remained aware of occasional whispers and speculative glances. Dean Carter approached them during cocktail hour, her expression warm as she greeted Emma. Ms. Mitchell, you're making quite an impression. 3 board members have already mentioned your innovative suggestions for the youth mentorship program. Emma has a unique perspective on what actually works in communities like Dorchester, Nathan said proudly. Theory is valuable, but her practical experience is invaluable. The dean's eyes moved between them, noting their body language with a perceptive smile. I see the rumors are true, then. I must say you make a rather formidable pair. Before either could respond, the dinner bell chimed, summoning guests to their tables. Nathan had placed Emma at the head table alongside Foundation executives and major donors, a clear statement about her importance in his life. Midway through dinner, Nathan excused himself for his planned address to the gathered guests. Emma watched nervously as he took the podium, his presence commanding immediate attention. Welcome, friends and supporters of the Blake Foundation, he began, his voice confident and clear. Tonight, we celebrate not just the Foundation's achievements over the past year, but the individuals who give meaning to our mission. He spoke eloquently about educational inequality, healthcare disparities, and the Foundation's efforts to address both. As he neared the conclusion of his speech, his gaze found Emma's across the room. I'd like to share something personal tonight, he continued, his tone softening. Many of you have known me for years, as a businessman, a philanthropist, occasionally a difficult dinner companion. Gentle laughter rippled through the crowd. But I'm not sure how many of you have known the real Nathan Blake, the man beneath the resume and reputation. The room quieted, sensing a shift in the familiar gala speech format. 6 months ago, I had an encounter that changed my perspective fundamentally. Through a series of circumstances that can only be described as fateful, I met a young woman who challenged every assumption I held about success, merit, and human value. His eyes remained fixed on Emma, who felt her heart pounding. She showed me that true strength isn't found in wealth or influence, but in the courage to pursue your convictions, despite obstacles. In her, I saw a reflection of values my parents instilled in me long ago, values I had perhaps lost sight of amid the trappings of success. A murmur passed through the audience as people began connecting the dots, many turning to look at Emma, whose cheeks burned under the attention. The Mitchell Blake Scholarship Program emerged from that revelation, a recognition that our systems often fail to identify and nurture extraordinary talent simply because it doesn't conform to our preconceived notions of what excellence looks like. But this isn't just about institutional change, it's about personal transformation. Nathan paused, his expression unexpectedly vulnerable before the crowd of Boston's most influential figures. Tonight, I want to publicly thank Emma Mitchell. Scholarship, recipient, medical student, foundation volunteer, and the woman who reminded me what matters most in life. Her integrity, compassion, and unwavering commitment to justice have made me not just a better philanthropist, but a better human being. The room erupted in applause as Nathan gestured toward Emma, inviting her to stand. For a moment she hesitated, overwhelmed by the public declaration. Then, gathering her courage, she rose gracefully, accepting the acknowledgement with a small, dignified nod. As the applause continued, Emma realized something profound had shifted. Nathan hadn't just introduced her as his romantic partner. He had honored her as his equal, someone whose values and perspective had fundamentally altered his own. In that declaration was a bridge between their worlds, an acknowledgement that their differences had created something valuable rather than insurmountable. When Nathan returned to the table, he took her hand beneath it, a private connection amid the public spectacle. "Too much?" he whispered. "Perfect," she replied, squeezing his fingers. "Absolutely perfect." The gala concluded well after midnight, and as Nathan's driver navigated the snow-covered streets toward Emma's apartment, a comfortable silence settled between them. The evening had been a turning point, a public acknowledgement of their relationship and a successful navigation of the social complexities it entailed. "Thank you," Emma said finally, "for what you said tonight, for seeing me as I am, not just as someone to be helped or elevated." Nathan stroked her hand gently. "I should be thanking you. Before I met you, I was surrounded by people, but profoundly alone. You changed that." As the car pulled up to her building, Nathan walked her to the door, snow crunching beneath their feet. The city around them was quiet, transformed into a winter wonderland that seemed to exist outside of time. "Stay," Emma said impulsively as she unlocked her door. "It's late, and the roads are terrible." Nathan hesitated. "Are you sure?" "Your apartment is tiny," she supplied with a laugh. "Lacking in Egyptian cotton sheets and imported marble bathrooms? Yes, it is all those things. But it's home." His smile was warm as he dismissed his driver with a quick text. "I'd be honored to see where Dr. Emma Mitchell begins her days." Inside, Emma was momentarily self-conscious about the cramped space, the second-hand furniture, the textbooks stacked on every surface. But Nathan moved through her apartment with genuine interest, examining the photos on her refrigerator and the well-worn medical texts on her shelves. "It suits you," he said finally. "Practical, unpretentious, focused on what matters." The simple observation melted away her remaining insecurities. This was her world, modest but authentic, and he was seeing its value just as she had come to appreciate aspects of his. Later, As they sat together on her small sofa sharing a bottle of wine, Emma found herself thinking about the journey that had brought them to this moment. From a humiliating first encounter to tonight's public declaration, their relationship had evolved through genuine effort to understand each other's perspectives. "What are you thinking about?" Nathan asked, noting her contemplative expression. "About bridges," she replied. "About how we've built one between worlds that seemed impossibly far apart 6 months ago." Nathan considered this. "Not a bridge," he corrected gently. "A new space altogether, belonging to neither world, but incorporating elements of both, like us." Emma leaned against him, feeling the solid strength of his shoulder. "I was so afraid of losing myself in your world, of becoming an accessory to your life instead of the author of my own. And now? Now I understand that love doesn't require surrender. It creates possibility." Nathan kissed her then, tender and reverent. "You've taught me that true wealth isn't measured in assets or investments," he murmured against her lips. "It's measured in courage, in compassion, in the capacity to grow." As snow continued to fall outside, transforming familiar landscapes into something new and beautiful, Emma and Nathan remained wrapped in each other's arms, inhabiting the unique space they had created between their different worlds, a space defined not by compromise, but by mutual respect, shared values, and the transformative power of seeing beyond assumptions to the person beneath. In that moment, Emma knew with absolute certainty that whatever challenges lay ahead, the completion of her medical degree, the continued scrutiny of their relationship, the ongoing navigation of their different backgrounds, they would face them together, each made stronger by the other's perspective. "I love you, Nathan Blake," she whispered. "Not despite our differences, but because of what they've helped us both become." His arms tightened around her. "And I love you, future Dr. Mitchell, more than I ever thought possible." Outside, Boston lay blanketed in pristine white, the divisions between neighborhoods temporarily erased by snow that fell equally on mansions and modest apartments alike. Within Emma's small living room, a similar transformation had occurred, a recognition that human connection, when founded on genuine respect and understanding, could transcend the artificial boundaries of class and circumstance. Their journey had begun with a misunderstanding in a luxury hotel suite. It would continue through years of growth, challenge, and profound joy, a testament to what becomes possible when we look beyond first impressions to see the true worth of another person. Dear listeners, we hope Emma and Nathan's journey has touched your hearts. Their story reminds us that true connection transcends social boundaries and that love can be found in the most unexpected circumstances. For more emotionally captivating stories like this one, we've created a special playlist with equally moving narratives. You'll find it by clicking on the link to your left. If you enjoyed this tale of unlikely love and personal transformation, please don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a thumbs up. Every day we bring you unique stories that explore life's complexities and the power of human connection. Our next episodes will feature equally compelling characters facing their own extraordinary circumstances. Have Emma and Nathan's story resonated with your own experiences? Were you surprised by how their relationship evolved? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments section below. Your feedback helps us create more content that speaks to your heart and inspires your imagination. Until our next story together, remember that